so Jenda can jump on.
Oh, yeah. Where is he?
Well, he doesn't. There's no stream for him to get onto just yet.
Ah, so I just see him in the IRC channel.
Right, and he will once I start this. His Google Magic will notify him, and then he'll jump on. That's how that works. And now we're just waiting for the internet squirrels to catch up so that we can hear the sound check.
Oh, let me speak words pouring forth.
Talking. There he is.
Yep. He was just sitting by his computer waiting. Hey, Jenda.
Howdy.
Tell you what, now that's a loyal guy.
And I bet weeks when we don't do a show, he's sitting by his computer waiting, and it's like a jilted lover. He said he was going to call. I actually did that. You know, that's how pathetic I was in high school. A girl said, "I'll call you," and I didn't leave the phone. Like, literally for 2 days, the phone went with me everywhere. I took it to the bathroom. When I was taking a shower, I had the phone nearby. She didn't call.
Man, that one time you left the house.
No, I didn't. I mean, it was a long weekend. So it was like Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. She said, "I'll call you this weekend." Yeah. I didn't do anything that I didn't have the phone within 8 inches reach. And, you know, this was before cordless phones, so that was an ordeal.
Right.
Still waiting for YouTube to load. You know, and to her, I'm sure it was, "Oh, yeah, I forgot." And to me, it was, "You don't love me anymore." It turns out she never did, you know. But that's what 14-year-old geeks do.
Yep.
Just killing time some more. Waiting. All right. Jenda, are you hearing stuff? Yeah, you reacted. You're obviously hearing. So why am I not hearing anything?
Yeah, I've not heard nothing. Which, if you're not hearing, it's probably why I'm not hearing it.
Right, because you would only hear it if I'm sending it to you.
Yep, ditto.
All right, so Jenda, you can be my sound check. Are you hearing all three of us clearly?
Yo.
Darn free service.
All right, Jenda says yes. So there's nothing more to do but take him at his word and start the podcast.
There we go.
Dun, dun, dun.
All three. Okay. All pound. I was like, what is that? What is it? Is that some non-American slang? I don't know.
Okie dokie.
Wow. I don't know what is on this. Let me pull up my task manager. Something is just sucking the performance out of my PC to the point where, I mean, I click something and 90 seconds later it responds.
Man.
Like right now, I did Control-Shift-Escape back when I said, "Man, what is going on?" And I'm still watching the little circle go. It's probably Citrix. Something like that. Java. 100% CPU usage.
It's a lot of CPU usage.
Yeah, and pretty much it says it's all Chrome.
Yeah, 87 Chrome tasks running. You know, you can bring up a task manager in Chrome and kill the ones you're not using.
Oh, that's interesting. Didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, me either. I found it the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's neat. I've never noticed that." And because, you know, that way you're not guessing with the Windows Task Manager which one is which. You can, like, just kill the unresponsive tab if you're so inclined.
How do you do that? Task Manager.
How.
Shift Escape. There it is.
Yeah.
So, naturally, the thing that is using all my CPU is this show. Yep. So I can't really do anything about any of it. Nice. I can close Gmail, but that's pretty minimal. But yeah, the Hangout is just a serious resource hog. Because of OBS, I can't use hardware acceleration.
Ouch.
So everything's being done by the CPU.
Ouch.
And if I turn hardware acceleration on, I can't share the screen to YouTube. And Jenda would be very disappointed. He's the only person who would be. But, we love you, Jenda.
It's for you, man. You're the reason we put ourselves through this.
I'm going to, just in case something's changed, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to hit the relaunch button. And let's see what happens.
He's gone.
Please wait while Chrome updates. In a moment, you'll be browsing with the world's most updated browser.
All right. So, returning to the Hangout. And of course, it is Jenda is only hearing, not seeing, because, as I expected, killed OBS. It's one of those things where everybody's blaming everybody else. Chrome's blaming OBS. OBS is blaming Chrome. Somewhere in there, somebody's blaming NVIDIA, even though this is an Intel video card.
So you popped up and then you went away.
Yeah, because I turned hardware acceleration back off so that I could share.
Right.
But that's the beauty of using Skype for audio. Even if the everything crashes, we have solid audio connection. Of course, Jenda's not hearing any of this. Well, actually, I guess he is, because I'm broadcasting to OBS. Yeah. All right, but now it is picked up. I'm just
glad my computer has a whopping 8 gigs of RAM.
There we go. Oh, except that I lost all the lower thirds when I did that. So.
Oh yeah, that lower third thing.
Yeah. All right, anyway.
Yay, I have a new update to the Acer Updater. That's going to tell me I don't have any updates once I install it.
All right, begin your local recording devices if you have not already.
Engage silicon in grams.
All right.
And I'm going to click over here in Audacity. I'm going to say Control M to make a marker. And we're going to, well, first let me go ahead and clear away the dross in the chat room there. There we go. Then I'm going to try to sit up higher so that maybe my color comes back. Then I'm going to hit Control M and we'll start a show.
Yay, Control M.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 341, Filling Time, recorded October 21st, 2018, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Drive Time Radio for Geeks. I'm your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week, as always, are your two stalwart co-hosts, Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson, and Miles, the Oxygeneer Wakeham. Hello, gentlemen.
Howdy, Mark, and welcome, faithful opiites. We're glad you're here.
G'day, geeks.
Word to your digital mother. Before we go too much farther on, I just wanted to say that Daredevil Season 3 on Netflix was released on Friday. I watched 3 episodes of it yesterday, and I'm happy to say it is an absolute return to form for Season 1, where the writing was solid, the fighting was outstanding, and the plot was basic cop lawyer drama where one of the guys happened to be a super fighting guy. Season 2 came along, and it was all supernatural, the hand and resurrecting dead bodies, and just got super weird. And then, when a new season comes out, they do a recap. The recap had nothing from season 2 except for the very final scene. They're just pretending it doesn't exist, and I'm totally okay with that. So yeah, Daredevil season 3 is back, and it's again, I'm only 3 episodes in, but it is really solid. I'm super happy with those 3 episodes. They killed Luke Cage. I don't know if you've heard that. It's been canceled. They killed Power Man, Iron Fist. The Luke Cage is Power Man. They killed Iron Fist. And I assume that means Defenders is dead too. So that whole line of the hand supernatural stuff is now been erased from canon. So I'm super excited about that.
I wonder, it would make a lot of sense, like, if they kind of morphed everything into one show called The Defenders and dropped everything else, just so that way they can do these little mini arcs, or something. To me, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think we've hit the wall when it comes to superhero media, though, because I heard this week they're going to do a show about Batman's butler, Alfred. Is it Alfred? Oh, geez, sorry.
You are so not an American.
I'm going to get flamed by the comic book people now. Yeah. Well, they're going to do a show about his butler.
Why not? Oh, have y'all seen the trailer for Aquaman? Oh my gosh, it looks awesome.
I'm assuming that I don't need to see the movie now because I've seen the trailer, and that's all the best parts.
Probably. But yeah, the trailer looked phenomenal, and
I wish they had just passed on the whole gold and green at the uniform thing, but no, they had to get that in there. Hopefully, it was just a quick homage, and we'll never see that again.
Yeah, I can. It's sort of like the purple and yellow in Luke Cage when he walked by and saw the hanging on the line. You had to put that in there for the hardcore Power Man fans.
All right. So that's all I have to say about that. Seth, I don't know. I think I remember this name, The Adventures of Pluto Nash. That sounds vaguely familiar.
Eddie Murphy movie. I IMDb'd it. It came out in 2003. First time I saw it today, and it's okay. It's not. I'm glad I didn't watch it in the theaters. It was actually a YouTube movie, and it had some weird name. I was just like, what was this? And I was like, wait a minute, that's Eddie Murphy. I was like, oh yeah, this is that Pluto Nash movie. And it was okay. I understand why it didn't do well at the box office, but if you got it on a Saturday when you're going and coming and stuff, you're like, oh, okay, it's not bad, but it's not great. It's just not bad. So.
And I also saw this weekend Paddington 2. We're supposed to just obviously not notice that the entire family is different. The names are all the same, but all the actors are different. And that we went from being Nicole Kidman to some random brown-headed lady playing the same character. But other than that, it was a fine movie to have on while I was doing something else. My 10-year-old loved it, and I looked up from time to time and chuckled. So there you go. And Miles is concerned with his taxes, apparently.
Yeah. Well, what is today? As we're recording this today, I believe it is October the 21st.
It is indeed.
And if you're a U.S. Tax filer, the October 15th is the final extension of the deadline to file personal taxes in the United States. And, of course, I took advantage of that. So
you've been extending for 6 months?
Yeah, it's a thing I do. My accountant is so used to it. I think he likes it because it spreads the workload around for him. But the only reason I thought this was noteworthy was that this year I had to file a lot of Bitcoin transactions in my tax return. And if you're a Bitcoiner, or you've been selling Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin or altcoining or whatever you do, and you're creating taxable transactions, a word of warning, your accountant is poorly set up to be able to help you. And what ended up happening was I thought, they just sort of bundle up all the gains and the losses and work out, what it is, and you file it. Apparently not. My accountant had to go through every single individual itemized Bitcoin transaction one at a time, work out when the thing was bought, how much it was sold for. It was a nightmare. And I tried to tell him, you shouldn't have to do this. And he's telling me the IRS are telling him that he has to do this. Meanwhile, I got a $2,000 accounting filing bill.
Nice.
So, yeah. So
that's
got
why
that
he did it.
People. Well, that's why look, in his defense, when I looked at the return, yeah, everything's in there and itemized, and it goes on page after page after page. And I'm thinking, man, if I was one of those day trader types that, were buying and selling to try to get some sort of money in the transaction somewhere, this guy would be filing war and peace. Anyway, just a word of warning for any Bitcoiners or crypto coiners out there. It's nasty.
So I was mining last year, and so of course that comes in daily, and it ended up just being a couple of times a month it would actually hit my Coinbase. And Coinbase has this spreadsheet basically they do for you. And so it put it out there, and like I say, I ended up this year I owed $7, all thanks to Bitcoin. But so yeah, it was a little thing, but I didn't do like one line entry for each thing. That was just one of the entries on my Bitcoin. So total. And
so I had heard a conversation. I wasn't part of it. I don't even remember the context of it, but I heard somebody complaining about how the altcoins, specifically Bitcoin, have gone stagnant and how they're no longer a good investment. And I thought, that's what you want in a coin. Currency shouldn't be a volatile investment. And Bitcoin has been around the 6,000 mark with minor fluctuations for months now.
Yeah, about 3 months.
Yeah, and that's what you want in a currency. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Stop complaining about a good thing. Yeah,
I agree. I think that I don't know, maybe it's just been a weird week because I didn't want to be dealing with all this money stuff this week. I got enough to do. But the one thing I did find stumbling around on YouTube was that there was some, some sort of big global event in that a lot of countries, I guess they call them BRIC countries. Is it Brazil, Russia, India, China? They're all selling their US debt big time, like massively. Apparently Japan as well. And as a result, they've tried this before, but there's a big initiative going on right now that they're trying to get out of the US dollar being the world currency. They're trying to find alternative currencies for this sort of thing, which is not good if you're in the US. But at the same time, I kind of think maybe it's a good thing for Bitcoin. I don't know.
We will see whether it's a good or bad thing.
Yeah, and all the Bitcoin people are just mad they didn't sell at 20,000. That's really the only reason they're complaining about altcoins is because it's like, dadgummit, I didn't sell it when it was at 20. So they're just grumbling.
I'm sure, Matt, I didn't sell at 20,000. You could count me on that list. Seth, you are still experimenting with the coffee, and what are you finding out?
Well, I took some to work. Well, I gave some to my dad on Thursday, and he liked it. And I took it to work, and everybody at work actually liked it. And I said, would you pay Starbucks prices for this? And everybody who pays Starbucks prices, they said yes. So, I don't know really how to market it, and I served it to everybody cold. So just, like one or two people, they use the Keurig, but most people, it was just room temperature sludge that Deep Ellum calls water and the coffee. So if I'd brought some good Fruitvale water from home, it would have been even better, but they thought it was good. So.
All right. Good luck with that, because I need you to succeed because I can benefit from the royalties on that.
Yep. I just got to, like I say, I don't know how to market it, or what to do, but people seem to like it. So yay, people.
I need to run out after this show and buy a couple of lottery tickets. So just so you know, if you hear that the $1 billion lottery was won by someone in northern Georgia and I don't show up for next week's podcast, I will allow you to put those two things together.
Oh, and yeah, me and my brother, he gave me $5 and I put in 5, so I'm gonna go buy 5 tickets on the way home. So yeah, if you call me and I'm not here,
Actually, if I won that kind of money, the first person I wouldn't even tell my wife. The first person I would tell would be my lawyer. The second person I'd tell would be my financial expert. Then I would tell my wife, because at that point, you win $1 billion, you come into $1 billion, win it however you get it. You are no longer safe in your own home. Your kids are not safe in their school anymore. Things change.
Yeah,
anyway. You trust your lawyer and your financial advisor that much, huh?
I do. I have 2 people with whom I would literally trust my life. So, yes, that's important to be able to trust these people. So here's we don't really have a topic. We don't have news necessarily. It's just a discussion
Shocker!
sort of thing. Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
And honestly, I came to this show completely unprepared in any way. I did open up and see that Seth had created a document. So that was the sum total of my preparation for tonight's show. But Miles had made an observation, and it was something that I had been thinking about recently too. So we're going to talk about the fact that tech is not popular, not sexy anymore, right? And so, Miles, I'll let you introduce that idea.
Well, I was mentioning to the gang here that I go to CES every year, and the registration opened up a week or so ago. And I re-registered. And then one of the things they let you do with the CES is you can choose these different sort of tracks that you can follow. So a lot of people go there and they just hit the exhibition halls, which, I'll do that. But you can also pay extra money and get in on all these industry tracks on new things that are going on. And each year there tends to be a theme. One year it was Internet of Things, the next year it's 5G, the next year it's biohacking or something like that. And I saw a distinct lack of theme for the 2019 CES. So I kind of dug a little deeper, and all of the topics that appear to be there that you can register for were almost the identical same topics from the previous year, which were almost the identical same topics from the other previous year prior. And I think that I started to realize that maybe we're in that hangover phase with tech, and post-internet and all the new, anything from wearables to phones, mobile technologies and all that sort of thing, it kind of happens so fast and in such a compressed time period, like, 5-10 years, that now that it's not, tech is evolving, but it's evolving in areas which are not computer geek areas. It's robotics, or it's maybe it's medical technology, or it's transportation, or it's autonomous vehicles, that sort of thing. This is stuff that doesn't happen in our spare bedrooms at home, where normally it might be gaming technology, which is something that people get into, or it might be mobile, or it might be internet routers that are better, or whatever. It's almost like we've hit the wall with all that sort of stuff, and now tech is kind of bled into everyday normal daily life, and because it's normal, it's not as newsworthy, maybe. So that was where I kind of came from.
So I imagine this same conversation being had about textiles in the 1860s. They had these big trade shows about the new looms and whatever. I'm making stuff up that I don't know anything about. And the technology was moving really quickly during the Industrial Revolution. People were talking about steam engines and that sort of thing. And then eventually they just became kind of blah, and today, nobody really, there are fashion shows, but the only way you get attention in the fashion world is to get more bizarre, weirder. Nobody really cares that there's another line of cotton t-shirts. And I don't think that's a bad thing, in much the same way that I was just saying that Bitcoin stabilizing is not a bad thing. I think that technology stabilizing, particularly mobile technology, personal technology stabilizing, is not a bad thing. It just means it's become woven into our own fabric. The only people that it's a bad thing for is, Android Central and Engadget and these guys who have to make a living off of writing 15 articles a day when there's just nothing to cover. The latest phone is exactly like the last phone, except it's got an S after it. And that's when you resort to clickbait articles, because there's no actual content. So, yeah, it's annoying in some ways, but I consider it overall a very good thing. Seth, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a little different. I think we are reaping the benefits of the corporification of technology. All the home run hitters say, hey, I bet I could hit a home run if some corporation buys them out so they don't have a competitor, and they just tuck it away. And so all the dreamers, are living large off of their startup things, whereas nobody's putting forth new ideas. The iPhone, 15S, the S now stands for sucker, because you're going to rush out and overpay for it. Whereas the people who are looking to do new things, why bother? Because corporations want to take your money now and pump up the stock prices so they can exercise their options and pay a lower tax rate on their income and make the balance sheet look good for next quarter, so the stock is good. And they don't care what can technology do. The question has become, how can we wring every nickel out of that turnip that we can before we actually have to come up with a new one? That's my thoughts.
Well, it's interesting. We have a hackerspace near us in Phoenix, and I've periodically popped my head in there and, helped them out and donated some gear into the workshops and stuff like that. And they're great. They have like 3D laser cutting stuff that I could never afford or justify to have myself. And, I learned how to use that sort of thing for projects. And I realize it's, they're a maker movement, just like, the old ways of the past. And often I go down there and I get really motivated about what people are working on, and do some crazy ideas, and they do some amazing things. Well, they sent out a email to the folks that go there, saying that there's this sort of split off group that you're welcome to join, that is a decentralized group, like decentralized computing group. And I thought, yeah, that's sort of stuff I'm into. It's right up my alley. I'll join. So I signed up for it, and then I realized before they're not meeting until November. So I wanted to find out about who the people are that are behind this, and I found a couple of the folks in there. And one of the guys, he must be one of the original or founders, or a very important member of the Magic Leap project. And if you've ever come across this, it's kind of like it's like those 3D glasses things. Well, they're not 3D, they're those augmented reality headset glasses, like the Oculus, that sort of thing. But it's one project that looks interesting. I guess it was a Kickstarter originally, and it's now become this hot thing. They even have like conventions about it. People are writing software for this sort of stuff. It looks impressive. And I looked at it and I thought, this is kind of representing the best leap forward, pardon the pun, for 2018 when it comes to personal technology. And I looked at it and I thought, yeah, but I don't need it. It's not like a killer app. You know what I mean? It's like 4K televisions might be more of a killer app than this, or a smartwatch might be, or a mobile phone might be. But this is a pair of glasses that if you walked around wearing, people would think you look like a dork, and you'd probably walk into a pole or trip over something. And I don't know, I just don't see the relevance, but I'm probably wrong because I haven't ever put one on my head before. Maybe if I did, I'd go, oh my gosh, I see the light, and I'm, all in on this whole augmented thing. But if that's the best that we got going forward right now, I'll pass.
Well, nobody ever sees the next great thing. That's part of what makes it the next great thing is nobody sees it, nobody expects it. There were a lot of people betting on cell phones, but not in the form that we have today, right? Apple pretty much invented the form with the capacitive touchscreen, the rectangular slab of glass. But even what we have today is so far beyond what Apple unveiled in 2007. And so in the phone itself, while it was revolutionary, it was the manufacturing of those phones that spawned a whole bunch of other stuff. The fact that you can get accelerometer chips super cheap now, that created the quadcopter and the whole drone thing. So I think it's, we're looking for the offshoot that's going to be the next best thing, but really what we need to be looking for is the thing that's going to create the offshoots. What is the mother invention? And I don't know that we can see that. I think we have CES and other shows like it are sort of in their DNA. They were designed to help find those new things, but they have become really just grandstands for a few big companies. And I don't know if anybody's actually looking for the paradigm shift. But I don't know, by definition, can you even look for a paradigm shift? I don't know if that's even something we can do. I just babbled a lot there. Did any of that make any sense?
So what you're saying, Mark, is that it's the technology isn't the problem. We need the next Steve Jobs to come and show us that we really need this thing that's been around that nobody knew we had. Apple didn't invent the iPod. They trademarked the name iPod, but the MP3 player was created by Digital Equipment Corporation, and it floundered. Microsoft saw the tablet OS, but it took Apple to do the iPad. So who is the visionary that says, no, look at this thing. This is it. We've just got to create the demand. So maybe that's what we need, is we don't have anybody telling us that I'm going to show you what you never knew you always needed. And
I think a lot of us hoped that I just blanked on his name, the Tesla guy.
Elon Musk.
That Musk was going to be that guy, that he was going to lead us into the future. It certainly doesn't look at this point like he's that guy. We kind of hoped he would be, and he's had lots of big failures and lots of big ideas. But I think, who you're right. Who is that guy? Who's the guy who's going to point us to the future and be enough of a jerk to make those who are responsible to him move in that direction, whether they want to or not?
Well, I mean, Steve, sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say Steve Jobs had one talent that Musk might not quite have at the same level, and that was timing. Jobs knew exactly what to build and when to release it, so he could capture the attention of the masses at a time when they were looking for that thing. And I would say Musk knows how to disrupt the world and change it for the better. But he is so far shooting into the future that it can take 5 years before his car or his solar panels on the roof or his boring project or his spaceship to Mars turns into an actual deliverable product. It's an idea, and then it becomes a prototype, and then it becomes an experiment, and then it becomes eventually a product no one can afford, and eventually it becomes a product. And that could take 5-10 years, whereas Jobs would come right out of the gate and go, right, it's October. Guess what? We're announcing this, and everyone would just go and buy it. Musk doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's so maybe what we have here is the seedbed that we don't recognize the crops that are coming because we were looking for corn and didn't recognize the strawberry plant. And somebody else comes along and says, hey, it's strawberries, come eat them. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. So yeah, it's like I said, maybe maybe the technology is there, and there's been the same guy at CES for the past 5 years trying to just get anybody to come by his booth and look at his widget, and nobody comes. But then there will be, one person will have one too many drinks and turn down the wrong hall and end up there, and we'll read about another overnight success that was 10 years in the making.
Well, at that point, that's not the tech. In your theory, the technology already exists. The problem is the media. The people whose job is to point us at the new thing are so busy chasing down the old thing, or the new thing the old thing in a new color, that they're not even they don't know what the new thing is when they see it. And there is definitely that. I mean, we have an entire industry built on a certain template. Right, and that template, we think of smartphones and things like that, but that template goes way, way back. If you were an early PC Magazine subscriber back in the day, the articles were exactly the same today. Breathless things about the new extra megahertz in the processor, the extra kilobyte of RAM, and that's what it was. That's what everything was about. The speeds and feeds. It was all about the geeky stuff, and it was a niche market, and it worked. But I think today's consumer, they care more about. I just saw a Google Pixel 3 ad today, actually, a couple of times today. Verizon is advertising the Pixel 3, and the fake customer in the fake Verizon store talks to the fake producer or whatever host guy and says, "Is the camera good?" And he says, "It's more than a camera. It's Google Lens." And then the next 30 seconds is about what Google Lens does. Didn't actually answer the question. Is the camera good on the Pixel 3? Apparently Google or Verizon, whoever paid for that ad, I'm not sure, doesn't care. And the questions that people ask are, in the used to be when somebody said, "Is the camera good?" And they'd say, "Yeah, it's 15 megapixels." Well, now megapixel has become just a meaningless word. It was always a meaningless word, but now we recognize that it's a meaningless word. And Google or Verizon, I don't know who's selling that, honestly, is talking more about the software and what it can do. And I think that's the interesting thing, that we no longer care about the specs, and yet there's this template of comparing specs and gushing about specs. That's what the media has been programmed to work on, and so they're all looking at specs when the general customers don't care about that anymore. Maybe they never did.
Well, and there's nothing new there to sell them on. Used to, when the new computers came out, it was faster, and the software was written in such a way that it took advantage of the speed. But now, agile programming and flat companies and fire everybody and only hire people for this one project and turn your crap code in, and we'll do our first round of beta testing in the wild. So now you have to buy a computer that's 20 times faster to get a 2% boost in speed. Whereas before, you bought a computer that was 20 times faster, it was 20 times faster. And you were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." And now you're like, "Hey, the other computer was an i7 with 8 gigs of RAM, and this is an i50 with 4 petabytes, and yet it still takes Windows 10 5 minutes to load." So, yay, progress.
I think there's a social, cultural thing with that. I mean, to your point, Mark, it's the old sales tactic. You sell features, not benefits. Sorry, other way around. No, you sell benefits, not features, right? You sell the end result. So if Google Lens means a better viewing experience, who cares about megapixels, number of camera lenses, and all that stuff, right? Because you want the end result. That's sales. But the thing that seems to me at this point in time, in 2018, is a social conscience in the Western world, particularly in the US, is almost like a step back from technology and progression and that sort of thing, that maybe we went too far too quickly, and we need to get grounded again. And that certainly, with the current administration, we're certainly focused more about what is a better at-home experience, What can we do to shore up local business and jobs and all that sort of thing? That seems to be the cultural focus right now. Not how do we punt further into the future? And probably to some degree that might not be such a bad idea, because I think we punted so far into the future that there are so many risks associated with that. I heard an interview with Vitalik Buterin, the guy who invented Ethereum, who was basically reminding every single developer out there who was always getting giddy about how good this thing was going to be, and all these people, saying its price is going to go to the moon and talking about smart contracts and the way it's going to change society. And he said to everybody, he said, look, stop. Nobody yet has produced the killer app for Ethereum. Nobody has produced a smart contract that people use, like really use. And he's right. We invested all of this money and all of this future into this belief system that this was going to change the world, and they built it. So, the technology people did their job. They built it. But it's not been used for anything yet. It's like building a massive highway, but there's no cars on it. And so why did we build the massive highway? And at some point, you do have to sort of go, maybe we should step back a little bit and regroup here.
But who's going to do that? I mean, there's no money in not inventing. Who's going to do that?
I don't know. My gut feeling right now is that from a general kind of political / social cultural thing, there's a movement towards not being so progressive. And it might be just, nature of the way politics works. But there's more people right now saying, don't buy, stuff from overseas. We need to build it here. But they're not talking about how we invent the next generation of robots or how we invent the next generation of biotechnology, because that stuff isn't even on the table. It's not in the conversation. It's just bring the jobs back. But no one talks about how. But I think it's just a period on the end of a sentence right now, but not the end of the conversation.
Okay, I have a question for you, Mark, to bring this whole conversation back around and put it in a totally different direction. Are we reaping the benefits of having outsourced everything? And maybe it's not that there's nothing new. Maybe it's the new stuff isn't debuted in America. Maybe if we go to Japan and look at their version of CES, we would be like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that. Maybe in China, maybe in India, where we sent all of our development talent because we could get them to work for cheaper there. That's where everybody's, they do their job 8 to 5 or maybe it's midnight to 8 to, take the fat, weak Americans' money. And then in their basement and in their garage, then they're the ones who are inventing things. And we just don't know about it yet because we have lost the capacity as a culture to invent because we don't invent anymore. It's cheaper to get someone else to do it for us. And, we'll outsource all that and then we'll just, live off of the juice. And pretty soon the juice is going to dry up and that tree's going to die because we quit planting the seeds here and let somebody else have them. So if I wanted to go another direction, and how would that sound?
I recognize the incendiary device you're attempting to lob into this conversation, but I reject it. There are several things wrong with what you just said. For one, we are a global society. Anything that was happening in Japan or China or India, we would know about for a couple of reasons. One, you can't keep things like that quiet. And two, everybody wants America's money. If they had a product to sell, if they had an invention that was going to change the world, they would be telling us about it because we're the ones who make the money. And two, I reject your notion that we don't invent. We don't manufacture, but we still invent. Most of the greatest inventions of the last 15 or 20 years have been American inventions. Not all of them, but most of them. Americans invent, we just don't make. There's a difference. We don't produce. So I reject both of those lines of thinking. In that if there was some magic happening in India that could change the world, they wouldn't tell us about it. We wouldn't know because we're too wrapped up in our own drama. They would find a way to make us know because we're the only people who could pay to make a world-changing invention profitable. other country, I mean, Europe, I'm going to say the West, not just US, but the Western world is the economic engine of the globe. And so while we don't make stuff, we pay for everything. And then secondly, I reject the notion that Americans don't invent.
But it's interesting. I'll put my immigrant hat on right now. One thing that America does so much better than anywhere else is it has a culture, a willingness, an embrace of being a risk taker and being able to create something and think out of the box. And, those sorts of things are inherent in geekdom to some degree. It's inherent in our ability to invent technologies, and we've got a long history of that. Those same cultural, natural instincts are not necessarily shared by a lot of the other countries in the world, China, India to some degree. They're not as, and I don't want to put anyone down in those regions because this isn't attempting that at all. Their culture is different. They're not a creative, free-thinking, inventive society in which that is an embraced value. That's much more of a conformity and compliance and follow the lower risk kind of approach. And that's okay too, because that works too. But it's not Americanism, and its invention and its creativity it's not unique, but it's unusually vibrant, where you will get it in France and you'll get it in Germany and you'll get it in Britain and you'll get it in Australia, but you won't get it like this, right? It's hardcore. If you do anything at the educational level, at the cultural level, and you stifle or you try to turn people away from continuing to embrace risk takers, continuing to embrace progressiveness, continuing to embrace invention, and to also not to be willing to accept failure as being part of the process of invention. If you do anything in which those qualities are undermined or they're negatively talked about in the media or in politics or in anywhere at all, you kill the thing that makes the United States uniquely different and represents the reason for its vast wealth. Because it was the Wright brothers falling over all the time that eventually led to the aeroplane. And it was Henry Ford driving some weird-looking contraption into a tree that eventually created an automobile. And it was Elon Musk telling the world he can fly a spaceship that can land back on the world, but he did it here, right here in the States. And it's those things that are uniquely American, and not because the people who did it were American, but because we have an environment right here that enables that to happen. It's why I'm here. It's why these things get invented. And so if we think that these things are happening in other parts of the world, it is because they've created that culture exactly like we've got. But I can tell you from traveling and going to other places that I don't see that culture mimicked, because I don't know how you duplicate it. You can train somebody how to be a great C++ developer and then let them go back to Bangalore or go back to, Shanghai or whatever and practice in their own region and become great C++ developers there. But when it comes to what am I going to write, you have to have a culture of inventiveness, which is something that just happens right here in the good old USA.
There's nothing so patriotic as an immigrant.
Well, I'm just looking at it from a 1,000-foot view, right. And that's what I see.
Seth, your comments?
No, that was a good speech. I tried to contribute to the conversation, and I just got Miles wound up. So,
all right. We seem to have run out of gas. Does anybody else have anything else to say about boring technology? Not Elon Musk's boring technology, right. But technology that is not exciting. No? All right. Well, then I guess there's nothing left to say. But Seth, what happened this week in history?
All right, Mark. Well, I found this out in my perusal of the web, but I wanted to let everyone know that on October the 18th, 1958, Tennis for Two was shown off as the first known electronic game to use a graphical display. So one of the things that set this apart is it was developed as a game and not for teaching or anything like that. But Tennis for Two debuted this week in history in 1958, and this is one of those things to where technology had to catch up with the concept, because it was 20 years almost before people put asteroids in a bar and the bartender called them up and said, hey, your machine's broken. And they found out it wasn't broke. It was just stuffed so full of quarters. And then later in the 70s, the world caught Pac-Man fever. And then, now everybody plays Fortnite and, movie theaters are going desolate and malls are shutting down because Master Chief is trying to save us from the Covenant. So it all happened this week in history, Mark. And now back to you.
So Tennis for Two, I'm assuming, would be the grandfather of Pong.
It used an oscilloscope. So if you go into, sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Wait, before Pong came before Space Invaders and asteroids and that sort of thing. But let's see, I'm looking. Quick Google search. The Pong was the first documented ping pong game, video ping pong game, in 1969. So 11 years later, the first what we know as a video game appeared. Which one of you said the 10-year-long overnight success story? This is exactly what this is. 1958, the concept was proved. 1969, it became a thing. 1972, Atari did their thing with it, and that's what changed the world, right? So there's something out there right now that is just sitting in somebody's garage that nobody recognizes the value of yet. And maybe the value is just entertaining drunks in a bar. That's okay. Yeah. What other technology exists today because of the video arcade? I'm certain that there are certain microcontrollers and display technologies. Would we have 4K displays today if there wasn't money to be made in better video games in 1983?
Good question.
The gamification.
People will spend lots of money on productivity. They'll spend even more money on entertainment.
No, that's true.
Yeah, that's interesting, Seth. I appreciate your trolling the Internet archives for this sort of stuff because I find these things super interesting.
Useless facts of informational trivia. I mean, that's like my wheelhouse. That's what interests me.
Yeah, somebody, I don't even remember the context. It happens to me all the time, right? But somebody threw out something, a question that, just one of the casual. I wonder what, and I knew the exact answer, and I was in a group of people, and they all turned to me and stared at me, and I'm like, useless information is my forte. Useful information, not so much. So right. Yeah, it's the curse we bear, Seth. I'm right there with you. However, I've never taken the time to memorize the phone book like you did.
Well, being a geek in a small town with no computer, I had to, take what I could find, and there wasn't much to find out in the country. So,
all right. So, what do you have to entertain and amuse me today, Seth?
Okay, this is a website I stumbled across, and it's kind of cool. So, puzzleprime.com/casual-puzzles. You can go here, and there's just a whole bunch of mazes on the thing, and the mazes are art that you can kind of navigate through. And, I thought they were really cool. You can just go on there and try to find your way out. Like there's a hand maze. There's mazes that look like paintings. There's one that looks like an eyeball, cityscape, stuff like that. Just go there and, and if you want to make your child sit down, make them finish this maze or something, print it out and good luck. So mazes for your casual time. And this is one of those things that you could maybe print out or something and just to entertain people offline. And I don't know if entertain is the right word, but I like mazes occasionally. So
these are not digital things. They're they're to
Well,
be put to be interacted with in the physical world. What is that?
I mean, you don't have to. It's just, I'm just saying that's an option. So you could do it. It's kind of hard unless, you have like a stylus or something that you could kind of go through and overlay, maybe save it as paint and then try to draw. And if I don't know, or maybe not paint, Google or GIMP, because who wants to pay $8,000 a month for Photoshop online? But some way to track your progress and, oh, whoops, that was the wrong way. How far back do I have to go to find the thing? Like the block maze one, I just think looks really cool. It's like a 3D. It's kind of drawn to mimic a 3D thing, and you've got to kind of, how do you go around in it to find your way out? So I thought it was pretty cool.
Wow, I'm looking at the dragon one. That thing is intricate.
Yeah, that's why I say it might work better to print them out. Or, if you've got a 4K TV sitting around and you want to get finger smudges all over it, put it up there and have your kids try to find their way through it, maybe.
All right. I don't know what to say about that. It's interesting. It is interesting.
Yeah, it's
just
interesting.
Not my thing.
It's not funny. So, and
I mean,
I've kind of developed this segment as being something funny or stupid kind of thing. And
it's not your backyard amusement park or your drive a tank. I mean,
right.
Those are definitely the pinnacle of the dev/random.
Yeah, maybe I ought to develop like a best of and bring back Rent a Midget or something like that. So,
well, we're 341 episodes in. Nobody would know. You could actually just start cycling right back through. I wouldn't notice. The listeners wouldn't notice.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Try new discoveries in bacon.
Bacon.
It's bacon cheesecake, man. That's a thing, and it's well worth it.
You realize I've been podcasting, and you, Seth, almost as long, but I've been podcasting for 10 years now. You'd think I'd be better at it by now. All right, this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can feed back to us. What's on your mind? What do you think about the discussions we've had? You can go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page, answer the world's hardest CAPTCHA. And I just got distracted by my own self bouncing on my ball as I talked. Sorry. Fill out the form there, and that will come into my inbox with a priority attached to it so that I know this is important. This is a listener feeding back, and I appreciate that. You can also call 559-I-AM-OP and leave us a voicemail. I'm pretty sure that still works. Nobody's done it in a long time. Maybe it's been dead. Maybe people have been doing it, and it just doesn't work anymore, and I don't notice. But I don't think that's the case. Or you can send an email to GeekRant@elementop.com. All those are ways that you can contact us. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. Truly, honestly, and I'm sorry that I fell down on my job, but somebody recently made a much larger than normal donation via PayPal, and I want to give you thanks, but I didn't write down your name, and I don't have my email up in front of me, and the way my computer's running today would take about a minute and a half to load it. So you know who you are, and thank you. And to the rest of you, shame on you for not being so gentle. No. I do appreciate any show of support, be that financial or by an email or any other way. Honestly, the best thing you could do is tell other people about us. If you like what we do, if you like the show, if it's entertaining to you, you have friends who are like you, probably. And so if you like it and you have friends who are like you, they would probably like it. And I guarantee that not everybody listening to the show, if you look around, not everybody around you is a subscriber to the show. Go ye therefore and make disciples of the Opie. Tell people about us. Show them what a podcast app is if you have to. Open the world of podcasting to people. If you don't like what we do, well, you're probably not listening to this point anyway. So anyway, 10 years we've been doing this. I think the actual 10th anniversary was in April. I'd have to go back and look, but it's been
April's when you launched Tightwad.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was April 1st. I think actually it was March. It was we did an episode 0 like any good geek show would do. Anyway, I've just been I was thinking about that this week, and I'm just, again, I'm going to be super honest, like I like to be. I've reached that point again where I'm just completely burned out with work and with family and with doing this show. At one point in time, I was doing 8 shows a week, and now I'm doing 1 show a week, 2 really on the other network, Podnuts. I do a show, it's just wearing on me. It's just burning me out. And I was thinking about that in that context, and I realized 10 years. I've been doing this a decade. There aren't many things that I've stuck with for a decade. Many hobbies, most of us don't. We go through phases of things. I've been doing this for 10 years. And maybe that's why I'm a little tired of it. I'm sure we'll take some time off, probably in December. We've already got some stuff planned, and I'm sure I'll come back in the new year, rejuvenated and renewed. But the reason I was unprepared for this show, and the reason that I may sound a little distracted, is I'm just really tired. I'm tired of this. I like it, but there are a lot of things that you can like and still be tired of. You eat pizza every night for a month, you can still like pizza. You just get tired of it.
What?
It happens. It does.
I like pizza. Yeah.
So anyway, just a little honesty from you to me. We're family. I mean, from me to you, not from you to me. Honesty from you to me is the feedback part. But we're family here, and so I just wanted to let you know what's going on and to prepare you for the crap shows that we're going to have over the next few weeks while I'm dealing with just the fact that I don't want to put any effort into this. But anyway, so there's that. Thanks for listening. I think this was a good discussion. It was fun for me. I always enjoy doing it when I sit down. These guys are 2 of my good friends. Miles, I've never shared the same oxygen with him, but I consider him a good friend.
I need to come to Atlanta. We need to have a beer or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll put me down for an or something. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's amazing what, this technology that we take for granted, the things that we consider not sexy anymore. The fact that we're represented in 3 different time zones right now and having a real time conversation. And Jenda, who I'm pretty sure is on another continent, is joining us, hearing us in not quite real time, but close to it. And we just consider that, it's boring. Nobody gets excited about that anymore. That's kind of, that's both interesting and sad at the same time. That such amazing things has just become blasé. And we're looking for the next great thing, and we don't realize how great we actually have it. Anyway, mini sermon over. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Miles, Seth, thanks for hanging out with us. That's it for this episode of the Geek Rant. And remember, pay for what you like.
Toodaloo.
Got it.
Oh, Jenda's in New York.
Oh, okay. Well, it's another country.
Yeah, from
Just about.
from the south. It counts. I said another continent. Yeah, it's not quite that far away. You have to go across the Canadian border. Who was it? There's somebody here that used to be here on a regular basis who was from the other side of the world. I thought it was Jenda, but I guess not. I don't know.
Sure.
It was somebody. Anyway.
Wow. So, listen, calendar talk here.
Now, let's go ahead and end the YouTube video before we do that.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, no problem.
See, everybody, we're going to do some housekeeping now. By the way, these are my new bifocals. So if I looked like I was headbanging during the show, I was just trying to figure out the right angle to see things.
They look good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They don't look so good from this side, but I'll get used to it. All right. See you, YouTubers.
Bye.